In this video, we're going to look at converting units of speed, distance, and time. And so what we're going to start with is we're going to start with converting distance units. And so I've got a conversion chart here, and the conversion chart shows all our different distance or length units, so kilometres, metres, centimetres, and millimetres. And to go from kilometres to metres, we have to follow this arrow because this is the only arrow that goes out from kilometres towards metres. And as you travel along that arrow, you multiply by 1,000. So whatever you've got, you multiply by 1,000. So if you had 1 kilometre and you wanted to know how many metres it was, you take the number 1, you times it by the 1,000, and that will tell you how many metres you've got. So 1 kilometre is 1,000 metres. And if I wanted to know what 1 kilometre was in centimetres, what I would do is I take the 1 for my 1 kilometre and I look at how far I have to go. So I have to go to metres first, so I have to times by 1,000, and then from metres I have to times by 100 to get to centimetres, and so that is my conversion. And so I need to pull my calculator out and multiply that together, or I can just say it's 1 and I can count up. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. That's how many centimetres I've got. If I wanted to convert the other way, say I wanted to go from millimetres to centimetres, I'd need to use this bottom arrow, and so I would be dividing whatever number I had by 10. So say, for example, I had 35 millimetres and I wanted to know what that was in centimetres. Then I just write the 35 and then I write my conversion factor, which is divide by 10. So 35 divide by 10. Then I get my calculator out and I work that out. 35 divided by 10 is 3.5 centimetres. But what if I wanted to go from metres to millimetres? Say I had 1.4 metres and I wanted to know what that was in millimetres. So I would put my 1.4 down, and then I'd look at my conversion, and I want to go from 1.4 from metres to millimetres. And the only way to get there is times by 1,000, times by 1,000, times by 100 to get to the centimetres. So that gets me to here, and then I've got to times by another 10, and that gets me to my millimetres. And then when I do that on my calculator, I get 1400 millimetres. Okay, so the way that it works is whatever number you have that you're trying to convert. So here I had a 1, so it's 1 times whatever conversion factor I've got. This one, I've got a 1, so it's 1 times whatever conversion factors I need. I had 35 here when I went from metres to centimetres, and so I put 35 and then I put my conversion factors here. Again, I've got 1.4 that I want to convert, and so then I write 1.4 and then I write my conversion factor. So I'm going from metres, which are here, to millimetres, which are here. So my conversion factors are times by 1,000, times by 1,000, times by 100, and times by 10. So that's how you convert your distance units. Make sure you've got a calculator on hand if you're a little bit dodgy with multiplying by tens and hundreds. Time conversion works pretty much the same way, except that instead of multiplying by tens, hundreds and thousands, we multiply by 60s, 24s and 7s. So you really have to have your wits about you, and if you haven't got a calculator nearby, get a calculator, or you can actually use in the top of any browser where you've got the search window where the name of the website comes up. So you know the little line at the top that says HTTPS or whatever it is. If you get rid of that, you can actually just put a sum in there. So you could put 3 star for times 2 plus 5 divided by 4, and it will tell you what the answer is. So if you haven't got a calculator, but you've got your MacBook or something else around, you can always use the search bar, the URL line in your browser. Right, so let's do some time conversions, and the time conversions work pretty much the same way as our length conversion. So say we had 3.5 hours, and we wanted to know what that was in seconds. Then we go 3.5, we put our number down, and then we check our conversion thing. So we're going from hours to seconds. So we have to go from hours to minutes. So we're going to go times 60, 3.5 times 60. That gets us to the minutes. That gets us to the minutes. Come on, here. And then we've got to times 60 again. Times 60. And that will give us our answer in seconds. And when I do that, according to my Google search bar, I get 12600 seconds. And it's the same if you want to convert from seconds to days or weeks. You just use your conversion factors step by step. Now, this was really simple to do. The speed units you need to be a little bit more careful of. So let's have a look at converting some speed units. Now there's a couple of ways to do speed conversions. One is to use what you already know about converting distances and converting time, and the other one is to learn some new conversion factors. I like to do convert the distance and convert the time, and I'll show you how to do that first, and then I'll show you the conversion factors. So if you just want to know the conversion factors as another list of conversions to remember, then just fast forward to the end. But this way you don't need to learn anything else, you just need to use what you already know. So 60 kilometres per hour we can write as 60 kilometres per 1 hour. And then what I need to do is, if I want to convert 60 kilometres per hour to metres per second, I have 60 over 1, and I need to convert my kilometres to metres, and I need to convert my hour to seconds. So to go from kilometres to metres, I times by 1,000. So it'll be times by 1,000. That makes it to metres. To convert my 1 hour to seconds, to go from hours to seconds, I times by 60 and then times by another 60. And then I work it out. Now, if you've got a CAS calculator, you need to put these calculations in without the letters, all right? So just disregard the letters when you're doing your calculation. So the calculation that you do is just the numbers. So in your CAS calculator, you'll get up your fractions template, which you get from the button just below the delete button. And in the top, in there, you'll put 60 times 1000, and in the bottom you'll put 1 times 60 times 60, and then press enter and it'll tell you what it is. So calculation on CAS. If you don't have a CAS, if you just have a normal scientific calculator, you need to be a little bit more clever in forcing the calculator to do the numerator first and then the denominator. So on a scientific calculator, you need to force it to do the numerator first, which is the top line. And so you use the brackets. And on your scientific calculator somewhere, you will find those brackets. So you need to type bracket, the top line, close bracket, divided by, and then open another bracket, and then put the bottom line in. So it's a bracket around the top line divided by bracket around the bottom line, and then press enter. And when you do that, you should get 16.6 recurring meters per second. And you can also go the other way. They're the most common ones. You do get other ones. So we might go, what is how fast? Let's go 10 meters per second. And we want that in kilometers per hour. So we write it as 10 meters over 1 second. And then we're going to have our 10 and our 1, and we're going to end up with kilometers on the top and hours on the bottom. Okay, so to go from meters, where are we? Right up the top here. To go from meters to kilometers, we have to divide by 1,000, divide by 1,000, and to go from seconds to hours, we need to divide by 60 and divide by 60. And we'll do that, very carefully on our calculator, either using the fraction button if we're using a CAS calculator, or making sure that we're putting our brackets for our scientific calculator. So it would look like this with the brackets, and when you do your calculation, you get 36 kilometers per hour. So that's using the distance conversion and your time conversion. As I said, there's another way to do your speed conversions, and I've only done kilometers per hour to meters per second. You could do meters per second to millimeters per second, or centimeters per second to kilometers per hour. All of the units that you've got here, you can change them around. So the most common one is kilometers per hour to meters per second. And so some students prefer to just remember the actual conversion itself. So if you'd like to remember that, here it is here. To go from kilometers per hour to meters per second, you divide by 3.6. To go from meters per second to kilometers per hour, you multiply by 3.6. And you can try it on these numbers here, backwards and forwards. And here's some practice questions to practice your new skills. So the first question wants you to convert the following speeds all to meters per second. And so you've got kilometers per hour to meters per second, kilometers per hour to meters per second. This is meters per minute to meters per second, and kilometers per second to meters per second. So you'll need to be careful with that one. And in the second one, they want you to convert all the following speeds to kilometers per hour this time. So I'll get you to pause the video and go and have a go at these, and then come back and check your answers. So pause the video now. Okay, so here are all the solutions. How did you go?